Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to be talking about the root causes of food cravings.
So it's likely if you've just started eating a real food diet, or even if you've been doing it for a while, at some point you've come up against this intense craving for, be it, sugar or carbs or
Chocolate.
Chocolate, or like a salty bag of crisps or something like that. And often when we kind of give in to these cravings, we can feel really down on ourselves, like, oh, I just lack the willpower. Or
We get a lot of comments, and we know personally as well, you can often think, well, I just broke down and gave in. I don't have the willpower to make this work long term because these food cravings are always around the corner.
Yeah.
So in our video today, we wanted to get to the root of food cravings and talk about 6 root causes of food cravings, and so you can really address those and start moving forward.
You'll find that when we look at it closely, food cravings are rarely related to just a lack of willpower. There are so many reasons why you might be craving a food. It's biological, or it's, your environment, or emotional, or a mix of all of them,
I think it's important to look at it really holistically, as we try to do with everything with our diet and lifestyle. So if you're just looking at it from the emotional perspective, you may be missing a piece. Likewise, if you just look at it from the biological perspective, it could be
definitely
missing some of the points, because we are all interconnected and very multifaceted beings. So without going any further, we'll jump right in.
Our first point is food addiction and withdrawals. So in particular, many of the foods that people really struggle to give up is wheat and dairy products. I know, at least for myself, giving up cheese was really hard. It felt like I just can't let go of the cheese.
Yeah, I was worse with cheese than with bread. Like, for me, bread and pasta was like, I can live without that, but taking away my cheese and my milk, oh my God, we grew up on the Milo and all that stuff.
And it's like, if taking away a food makes you feel angry or really
sad, or
like some great distress, it's likely that you're actually addicted to that food. And this is actually possible with things like wheat and dairy, and to a lesser extent as well, corn and rice. So when these foods are broken down in our gut, in particular the gluten from wheat and casein from dairy, they form these opioid compounds that are known of as exorphins. So exorphins are kind of like endorphins. You've probably heard of endorphins before. When you go for a run and you
good endorphins.
Yeah, it's like it makes you feel really high. So when you eat these foods, if they can cross through your gut barrier and then through the blood-brain barrier, they can get into your brain and attach to these opioid receptors and trigger this real high feeling. So you can see how this can become very addictive. And then when you take away this food, you get the withdrawal. So you start craving it intensely.
And is it like one of those things with insulin resistance, and that where the more you have, the more the receptor becomes, like, you need more to feel better?
Yeah, I've heard of that with like dopamine. It's like the thresholds gets higher, you need like more of it to get that same high.
And so then when you take it away, it's like that feel-good high that was keeping you, because we're a seeking animal too. It's like the way that we're built physiologically. If you look at it from like an ancestral perspective, we're meant to seek and get the reward, and then we seek and get the reward. That's how we survive and thrive. But now it's available in a way that it was never before. We can just buy a candy bar now. We don't have to hunt down our food.
And it's extremely processed. So back in the day, the Bounty was a sweet potato or something, that has a lot of fiber and water. It breaks down slowly. And now we've got things that convert to sugar instantly, and it gives us that really quick high. So it's you start.
And if you'd found that in the wild, you'd be like, man, get me more of that, or whatever that was.
It's like crack,
Yeah. So no wonder, now we have no limits. You can just go and buy this any old time. It's our brain and the way we've evolved is almost working against us in this new environment.
Yeah.
So our second root cause of food cravings is gut dysbiosis. So we've spoken about the gut and its ability to go out of balance many times on this channel, because we believe that gut health is so important, and it really underpins health for our whole body. And the interesting point when it comes to food cravings is that our gut bacteria, or our bacterial cells in general throughout our body, outnumber our human cells something like 10 to 1.
Yeah.
So we're almost more bacteria than we are human in a funny way.
So you get this funny thing where it's like, are we in control or are the bacteria in control?
So when you have an imbalance of good and bad bacteria, particularly in your gut, it can drive cravings for foods which are not actually beneficial for your health, because an overgrowth, for example, of candida may drive you to crave more sweets, because we know that what's in our gut interacts with our brain. So they call that the gut-brain axis. So it depends what's being made up in your gut, like what the balance is, but certain bacteria we know drive cravings for different types of carbohydrates or processed sugars.
Yeah.
So if you're craving a lot of sweets and you already suspect that you have some imbalances in your gut, that could be an area to look at as well.
So we've talked a lot about cravings for sugar, but now we're going to talk a bit about cravings for salt. So in particular, when you feel like you're craving like those really savoury, naughty items like a bag of chips or salt and vinegar chips, we used to love those. But often when you're craving something that's more salty, it could be that you have an imbalance in your adrenals. So the adrenals are two glands that sit on top of your kidneys, and they're responsible for triggering the stress response. So when you encounter something stressful, your adrenals will pump out hormones.
Cortisol.
Our adrenals also regulate our fluid balance and sodium levels. So there are a number of ways that the adrenals can become imbalanced, namely if you are feeling very stressed. So when you are chronically stressed, especially, your cortisol can end up getting really high and then it will tank. So it will go really low. And
you know, if you have a lot of problems getting out of bed in the morning, that your cortisol is out of whack, and it could be.
So they call this adrenal fatigue in the alternative sort of community.
So if you're often craving salty snacks and you're having trouble getting out of bed without a coffee in the morning, you may want to start looking at your adrenals and looking at really supporting yourself with stress management techniques, or getting a bit more sleep and getting regular with your sleep habits and patterns, because that really helps your body to recover from stress and put that back into balance. And we've also done a lot of other tips around how to reduce stress on this channel, so you can check those out.
So our next root cause is blood sugar imbalances. So we've also spoken about this a lot here. A lot of us spend our whole lives riding the blood sugar roller coaster. So we're constantly spiking our blood sugar and spiking our insulin, and then having that real low when you get fatigued after you eat, when your blood sugar drops. So often when our blood sugar drops, we start to have these really intense cravings, or this urge to eat carbs in particular, because we want to bring our blood sugar back up. So that is another reason why you might be craving that real sugar hit, you know, the bag of tubes that you have in the drawer. Or
I think especially a breakfast that is very either processed or high carb for some of us can really set us off on that cravings spin for the rest of the day, because you've started the day with the high blood sugar spike, and then the rest of the day you're just trying to keep it up so that you don't get tired or cranky. Like I used to get really hangry between meals, and that was why. So
you can address that by starting to eat more fats in your diet, eating more complex carbs, and
kind of just learning. I think as well, when you start to play with your diet and take the processed foods out, your blood sugar really does just stabilize quite well.
Assuming you don't have,
underlying other issues. So our fifth root cause that we want to talk about is hormonal imbalances. So there is a chance that your food cravings can be linked to an imbalance of hormones, and particularly for us women, around that PMS time of month, there can be a spike in cravings for certain foods like chocolate or sweets. And oftentimes it can come down to an imbalance in your estrogen and progesterone, and even there are some links suggested between PMS and inflammation.
So ways that we can start getting our hormones into balance is, you know, really looking at our stress, because stress can have a big effect on our hormones. Also, you know, you can look into herbs that can balance your hormones.
Yeah, alongside stress there's of course diet, which we're always talking about.
So anti-inflammatory diet.
Taking an anti-inflammatory diet, and then looking at environmental factors too. What do you apply to your body? Products that you have in the home. They all can have such an influence on our bodies, and in particular for women, our hormones. Even when you think about different plastics and things that we often eat from and out of, they're full of phthalates and things like bisphenol A, many of which are known endocrine disruptors. So basically it means it disrupts our hormonal system. So making sure that your environment is as clean and natural as possible, and then looking after stress, looking after your diet, will really help to put your hormones into a better balance.
And our last point has more to do with the emotional side of things. So a lot of us eat for emotional reasons.
And this is a huge topic that we're going to cover.
Yes.
In a blog post coming up soon as well.
Yeah, and maybe even video if you guys want to see that. Let us know if you want to see that. But emotional eating generally comes about because we're trying to mask or distract from or buffer against an emotion that feels uncomfortable and that we just pretty much don't want to feel. And you know, often we get this image of like the girl eating a bucket of ice cream, like she's had a breakup. But it does not have to be that dramatic, you know. Even things like boredom, or this idea like you're at a party and you feel a bit anxious or you feel a bit tense and you just like go over to the snacks and you just stuff your face. You know, you're trying to distract from that feeling of tension in your body that you just don't want to deal with.
Yeah, for many of us, I think that boredom is a really big one, especially like at work, during the workday. You could just keep reaching for different snacks or things to keep the day exciting. If you recognize this in yourself and you think that emotional eating could be a big part of why you have your food cravings, we'd suggest that you really start diving into what emotions are driving your food cravings, maybe keeping a journal to note down how you're feeling, and you'll start to find some links between things in your life or feelings that you're having that you're trying to push away. And that's a really important step, to start looking at those things more deeply, thinking about how you can actually change the situation, or just how to drop into the feeling and learn how to deal with it without buffering it. And it's quite a deep topic, so I think we'll get into this more deeply in another video. But emotional eating is really important to address.
Okay guys, so that wraps up this video. So we've covered 6 root causes that may be driving your food cravings. So as we said in the beginning, it could be one of these or it could be a mix of all of them.
So I hope that you found these 6 root causes really interesting and empowering to start making some real progress and stop blaming yourself for food cravings. If you have any questions for us, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. We do our best to answer each and every one of you. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more videos.
And we'll see you in our next video. Bye guys. Today we're going to be sharing our eco gift guide for the holiday season, because we're only a few weeks out from Christmas.
So we're going to start with this little stainless steel popsicle maker, and you can pour your extra smoothie mix into these and enjoy them later as a little ice cream.